the description with where the notes lie on the reed, that's really interesting.
It's a thing, man. It really is a thing.
Yeah.
It's really a thing. And those low notes, like I said, when you've got the edges of your reed, sometimes the bark goes all the way up there, depending if you're using filed reeds or unfiled reeds. The bark can ride all the way up that way, and that especially if the bark, the unfiled ones are less so. Oh, sorry, the filed ones, the ones that have the bark cut off before they call them filed. Those reeds are a little bit less apt to give you problems in your low notes, but the unfiled ones, they play good sometimes, but the bark happens to be riding up like that, it'll really mess with your low notes. So it's a reed geek or a razor blade, but again, razor blades are a pain to carry, but reed geeks are very super easy to carry. Just scrape that sucker off, man. It makes a difference. And then that work on the reed to keep your reeds going. So let me tell you a few more things. If you don't have another specific question, I can just go with the part 2 of the whole reed thing. I've got a whole other scene. But you tell me.
I have 2 questions.
Okay.
With my personal experience.
Yeah.
The first one is, like you were mentioning before, with the reed breaking in.
Yeah.
You know, I got a reed out and it was playable, but it had a lot of resistance, and you know, I'd get tired pretty quickly. I'd use a lot of air.
Yeah.
And worked on it, got it to the point where I thought it was gig ready.
Yeah.
Went to a gig and it was still, you know, I really had to, you know, work hard.
Yeah.
For that gig.
Yeah.
The next time I played it, it had broken in and it was perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
For something like the reed clipper, if you clip the reed and then you continue to play on it when you have that extra resistance afterwards, do you ever feel like it breaks in a little more and kind of evens out?
It usually, yes. It'll be, and it might take a minute, because what happens is a few things that happen. First off, there's a physiology part of this. 2 components. One is the actual lip itself. At least for me, I find that when I'm playing a lot, or I'm playing pretty hard and there's some vibration going on, my lip will get softer, and there'll be less of a callus on my actual lip. And when the softer my lip is, the more resistant a reed will feel. If my lip is feeling like it's got a little callus on it, the reed will feel actually easier. And so when I'm playing more, it'll get a little harder, and so my lip actually evolves in a way during the course of playing, especially over a couple days. And if I'm playing 2-3 hours a day, which is a lot of days, then the lips will be super soft and the reed will feel quite resistant. Then if I take a couple of days off, the reed will feel easier again. And I think that the changes, the reed itself might change, but I think it's my lip doing most of the changing, because after a couple more days, the reed gets hard again. So I think that's a factor with one thing. That's 2 components. One is that, and the other is the actual physiology within this area here. I found that since my teeth are a little bit here, if I'm playing for a couple days, this gets a little harder. And that also affects how the reed feels. So if I've been playing for a couple days, everything gets real. My lip gets a little callous, a little less soft, and my inner lip gets a little harder. It's interesting. So the inner lip is harder and the lip is softer, and when I'm playing more. And if I take a couple of days off, my lip gets a little bit like callous, almost like the almost chapped a little bit, and then my inner lip gets a little bit softer because the callus that's inside of that kind of breaks down or whatever. So that's softer, and my lip is harder. Then the reeds feel easier. It feels almost like it's more mushy here. When it's a little more mushy here, the reeds are more easy to play. And when this is harder, my lip is really, you know, kind of sensitive and soft, the reed will feel more resistant, and that's when I feel the best. That's when I'm really so that's a factor in all this. And so the other factor, of course, is just your jaw and how tired you might be. So in one set, if you playing hard, the second set, things will feel different just based on just a little bit of fatigue there. So all that's a factor, the actual physiology of the lip and the muscles. The reed itself, my experience with reeds is that they do 2 things. One is they break down slowly over a period of time, and the other part is they dry out. So drying out makes them easier, less resistant, and breaking down makes them less resistant. So depending on what the reed is, it'll break down at whatever pace it breaks down, what your saliva acid is, whether you keep the reed wet or not, how much teeth you brush your teeth, and how clean you keep everything. All that affects how long the reed lasts. I'm a big one on hygiene. I clean everything all the time. I think everyone should do that. Like wash everything, keep everything. Like when I was a kid, I kept the mouthpiece on the reed, just throw it in the case, and whatever, take it off every 2 weeks or whatever. But now I take everything off every time and get it underwater and keep everything really hydrated and clean. And so with that, the reeds last longer. So I'll play, like, this reed is not that old. Maybe 2 weeks. Maybe a week. Because I played it on the Earth, Wind and Wonder session, and I played it for a few days before that. So maybe 10 days. This particular reed, this particular one. But I played them for sometimes 2, 3, 4 weeks. Sometimes one reed on a whole tour. I've done it a few times with the Dario reeds. Also with Van Doren's too. Pretty much any quality reed, which is, I guess, most reeds now, they're all pretty good. So if you maintain it pretty well, keep it clean, I think they'll last a long time. Now, a new reed does have a thing, relatively new, but then there's a break-in, right? So I'll take a new reed, and I won't know, my body won't really know it for the first couple of days, and the reed doesn't know itself because it's still getting hydrated and still getting ready. So I think my experience, it takes about 2 or 3 days of a few minutes of playing each day at least for the reed to settle where it's going to settle. I usually try to give it 3 days if I'm going to really try to play it, a new reed. And then it's going to settle into whatever it settles into, and you get used to it. Those two things both happen, whatever that exactly means. But as a practical matter, 3 days, and whatever's going to happen happens. And then the reed just is going to behave. For me, it's going to behave pretty consistently. But that first couple of days, it'll change, And so, like you said, sometimes you'll get it on a gig and it'll be resistant, and then the next day it'll be better. It'll pop and it'll snap. Just okay, there it is. That's what I've been waiting for. But sometimes it does take us, or vice versa. Sometimes it's a little too thin and too easy. Sometimes it'll thicken up. For me, because the way I play reeds, I play them really wet. And so with them being wet, they have to get hydrated. And it takes about 2 or 3 days for a reed to get fully hydrated. So once it's hydrated, then it's more resistant. And so a reed that plays a little easier, like when it's dehydrated, you probably experience that. Same thing on the front end of it. So when it's not particularly hydrated in the beginning, but then it gets more hydrated as you play it, as you break it in and keep it, underwater or keep it wet, however you're maintaining it. And so it takes a couple of days to get to that point. When it gets there, then it's fully hydrated and it's cool. And then the older the reed gets, the quicker it'll dehydrate. So that's the other thing, is like a newer reed, once it's hydrated, will hold its hydration longer than an older reed. And so I find myself on gigs, I find myself wanting to get through. I'll get through a set no problem, but 2 sets will be tough unless I get the reed underwater. If it's an older reed, if it's a newer reed, 2 sets is no problem. I can play all day no problem with the same good level of hydration. But as it gets older, its ability to retain water does diminish over the life of the reed. So that's another factor with maintaining them. So then, if I know I've been playing a reed like a couple of weeks, then it's going to shift into the practice reed mode, and it's going to be in a separate little container, which is practice reeds, and I just deal with it that way. And gig reeds will be, if I have a series of gigs coming up, I'm going to start 3 to 5 days out prepping a reed so it's broken in by the time the gig is ready, so I don't have to, because if I do it the same day, first set, second set, who knows what I'll get in the course of,